What's up, guys? I am Mike Arnold, the owner of Creekside Outdoor Living here in Crown Point, Indiana, and this is how we install retaining walls. So we've been installing retaining walls for really the inception of this company. It's always been a part of our services. At the very beginning, of course, like any company, like anybody who's just starting out, made some mistakes along the way, and we learned from those. And then we started studying, and then we started reaching out to the other professionals in the industry, to the point where now I would consider us to be the masters in this area for the retaining wall build. Now, not only have we built brand new retaining walls, but I can't tell you how many people have called me and said, Mike, somebody else installed this retaining wall and it's falling apart. It's a year old, this shouldn't be happening. And I come out there and I can diagnose exactly why this retaining wall is falling apart. A couple of reasons why retaining walls fail. I would say the number one most important is improper drainage. And we'll get into that, but water has to be able to travel through the backfill of that wall and then get to a place where it can exit. Otherwise, it's going to just freeze and contract and expand, push that wall over. Soil is a lot of times placed directly behind a retaining wall. So incorrect. Another reason is there is no tie-back system to hold that retaining wall back into what it is retaining. And then lastly, I would say, and frankly, there's probably a lot more, but the three that come to mind, the last one here is improper material. Not using premium grade retaining wall block, like from Menards, for example. It's just going to crumble, it's going to fall apart. And if the block itself fails, the system fails. So let's have a scenario here. You've got a hill and it dips off like this, and then it tapers off, plateaus at the bottom. And you have a very small yard. You want to expand that space. This is part of your property, but you obviously can't use this unless you just want a sledding hill, and that's all you want to use it for. But you might want to put a playground here or something. So we want to give you a wall so that you can have all of this be flat, and this can all be enjoyable used space. So what we have to do is build a retaining wall. And this is not going to be just one big stick line, by the way. What's going to end up happening is, here are the blocks, and I'm just going to draw those in. So, and by the way, my drawing is not as good as our installations, just so you know. But we are going to excavate out a foundation at the very bottom, and it's going to go like this. Okay, so now we've cut into this grade. And not only are we excavating the foundation for the wall, but I also need to make sure that there is enough excavation on the back side for all of my drain stone. And this is actually going to come up just like that. So at the very bottom, we're going to, we excavate out the foundation. We bring in a compactor machine that is going to smack this soil extremely hard. Now, in Northwest Indiana, we've got an issue with rain and then snow and then ice. And that's why we have potholes in the road, is because moisture gets trapped underneath and it doesn't percolate into the soil in time for a freeze. And then there's called a freeze thaw, a frost heave. So the soil heaves and it drops. That's what can happen here if we don't compact this soil properly. So we want to bring a compactor in and smack this down as good as we can. And after that, we are going to line, we use a different color here, going to line the soil walls with a fabric. Reason for that is I'm going to have a lot of stone in here. And this is a step that is commonly skipped by a lot of contractors that I see. Put a fabric in here. What's going to happen over time is that this soil is going to mix in with this stone to the point where it's going to be mud rock. Or what will happen is this whole thing will be finished off and you will start to see, and you might have a wall where this is happening already, but the grade was here at one point and now it's here. It's dipped down. The reason for that is that all of this dirt is going through this and then it's coming out the wall. Erosion is taking its natural course and you are starting to have grade loss. So that's one problem. And we fix that by having a fabric. Next, we're going to start installing some of our base stone. It's just going to be 3/4 inch limestone. Install a couple inches of that. We're going to compact the absolute heck out of it and then bring in our first course of wall. Now this first course of wall needs to be partially buried. And depending on how big the wall is, will depend on how many courses or how deep the first course will be in the ground. But no matter how big the wall, you should always have some sort of course buried. Before we get to, I should just erase all this so this doesn't confuse anybody. Before we get to another course of wall, we're going to install a drain tube. The very, very base, this marker's running out of ink. The very, very base here. Purpose of that is that any kind of water that can enter into this backfill, this stone base, is going to get straight through. It's not going to sit and wait in the soil. It's going to go laser shot into this drain pipe, and then obviously we will designate a destination for it, but it's going to spit that out somewhere instead of having water built up here to then obviously frost heave and expand and push this wall over. So once I get this drain tube in here, I can get some more of my drain stone in here. Now I am up to the level of that brick and I can compact that a little bit. Next, I'm going to install another course, maybe 2, maybe 3, depending on the block. Some blocks are a lot thinner, some blocks are a lot thicker, so we can go 1 at a time, 2 at a time before we go to the next step. But let's say we go 2 additional courses. Well, if I've got a wall like this, I need to make sure that I am holding that wall back. Enter in GeoGrid. We're going to roll out, it's kind of a netting, if you will. It's going to roll this way, literally towards horizontal to the wall. Actually, this is going to have stone up to this as well. Sorry, I skipped that step. So stone is going to be up to this level of the wall. We're going to compact the heck out of that and then roll this out so that it's going to be sitting flush on the top of the wall and on the stone. Then we're going to sandwich this GeoGrid. It's almost it's like rebar in concrete, if you will. It's just another step to hold that thing back. I can sandwich that GeoGrid by adding on a couple more courses. And then I bring in a bunch of stone. I compact all that stone. This GeoGrid is now secured. It is rock solid and this wall is absolutely going nowhere. Except right there. It's just going to stay right there. And so on and so forth until I get to the very top. Some walls are 2 feet, some walls are 20 feet. This wall, I'm not really sure, maybe this is about 6-7 feet or so. Once I get to the very top, I'm going to install a cap, a coping unit, some people call it. And again, along the way, I will have installed some more stone. I'll have installed that GeoGrid. I'll install some more stone. And then before I get to the very, very top, I'm actually going to amend this a little bit and say that the grade of the grass, the intended grade of the grass is about there. So again, remind you, this is grass over here, and this is our soil. What's going to happen is I want to fold, this is my fabric again, remember, I want to fold this fabric over the top of this stone. Now, you might have grass coming all the way to this wall. Or if you're like some people, you might want the grass to stop here and you have some landscaping here. That's a possibility as well. Or this might not all be grass in the first place. This might be a retaining wall and this might be a patio or it might be a driveway. In which case all of this stone is serving as the foundation for whatever is up here. I digress, kind of going off course here, but either way, I want this fabric to fold over this 3/4 inch stone For the same reason, I don't want this stone at any point to be convoluted with anything but air, water, and limestone. This fabric is going to then come up, and let's just run the scenario that this is going to be soil and it's going to be grass. I'm going to add dirt. I'm going to backfill dirt in here, and then we will either do sod or seed. And now you will have effectively grass at the very top here. And this fabric, again, it's extremely important that this is such a very small part of the wall, but man, is it important, because I've seen so many walls fail because the landscaper before me stopped the fabric right here instead of curling this guy up, right? And just that little lip, this soil starts eroding out and goes through the joint of that wall, or it goes through the joint of the cap and the wall, or it starts dipping down into the stone. Regardless, you have got to make sure that this is self-contained. So this is how we install our retaining walls, and this is the application for really most types of, if it's going to be lawn on the top, or if it's going to be plants at the top, or if it's going to be pavement at the top. We still want to make sure that, number one, we're compacting our soil properly. Number two, we're using quality grade, either Unilock or Techo-Block products. That is so, so important. This is the kind of stuff that has a lifetime guarantee on it. Menards and Home Depot, Lowe's does not. Number two or three, whichever, we have the proper tiebacks. We have the proper drainage system. We have the proper fabric fold over. If we don't do those things, this wall will fail. And this is why our walls do not